Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be covering my final review of the 2024 Sony Bravia 9. Is it a good TV to pick up this year? Or maybe you should wait for the newer models that's going to come out in 2025. I'm going to be covering over the good, the not so good, and the bad, and then see if it's something that you want to pick up or not. Sit back and relax, and hopefully you enjoy the video.
Try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain. Pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane. Pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less. You check as I'm chess, what's happening next? Yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson. He got a new engine from pain, that's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold an obsession. All in his possession, you got their attention. I'll leave an impression and take a redemption. Just kill no discretion. Your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression.
Okay, I had to stop the video. I was going through some edits on this video, and that's why you see me in a different shirt right now. And as I was going through this, I want to go ahead and address one of the biggest issues with the Sony Bravia 9 that I know I'm going to get in the comments. And the biggest issue that is going against Sony right now is the pricing. And that's one thing that Sony, you would have to address for 2025. Granted, I get it. You got a lot of great reviews from all the other reviewers, but the pricing is one of the biggest issues that you have against the other competitors, especially when it comes to TCL, Hisense, and Samsung. Granted, you do get the better processor, but the pricing is one of the biggest issue that Sony has. And so I want to go ahead and address that in this portion. And then I'm going to be talking about more in depth about the actual TV. But I had to get this out the way first because that's one thing that a lot of people are going to keep talking about is the pricing. And so other than that, let's go ahead and go back to the video. Let's start by talking about the firmware used for this review and dive straight into the picture quality. So as of right now, just want to give everyone a heads up that I'm using July firmware update. I know there's some newer firmware update at the time of this recording. I no longer have the Bravia 9, so I just want to give that disclaimer out there. But besides that, let's go ahead and talk about the SDR performance. So straight out of the box, I do notice that the SDR on the Bravia 9 was a bit washed out. And I mentioned this in my previous videos before. It's brighter than the X95K, no doubt, but you need to tweak it a bit and give it some TLC to really get the picture where it should be. Once you dial it in, though, it can look good for the most content or even close to fantastic, but in its default mode, it definitely needs some work. Now, if we're going to switch over to the HDR performance, now here's where the Bravia 9 really shines. The HDR straight out of the box is almost perfect with minimum tweaks required, and according to my eyes, the colors really pop and the contrast is really outstanding. Depending on the content, this TV can make a major impact when it comes to HDR viewing. For example, when watching Godzilla vs. Kong, the Bravia 9 truly brought out some of those intense, vibrant scenes in the ways that X95K just couldn't quite match. When it comes to gaming, the Bravia 9 has a new updated menu, which is definitely a welcome upgrade compared to the X95K. The overall picture quality, motion handling, and responsiveness are quite similar between both models. So if you're a casual gamer, you might not notice a huge difference, but the updated gaming menu, super useful. I do want to mention that both TVs have similar response time, but the OLED still rules when it comes to the gaming. Oh, and Sony. Please, please, please fix the HDMI settings where we have to switch between enhanced and enhanced VRR. It's been an ongoing issue and I keep bringing it up until they solve it. And that is one thing that's one of the pet peeve when it comes to Sony TVs. I'm tired of constantly going to the HDMI settings and keep switching between those different selections. It's just because we are at a time right now, 2024, and we're about to go into 2025, that we shouldn't have to be toggling between those. So hopefully the new MediaTek chip for next year model hopefully will solve that. I'm crossing my fingers, but I just want to throw that awareness out there for people who are interested or never owned a Sony TV, or people that do own a Sony TV. You know exactly what I'm saying. All right, let's talk about the blooming and light bleed. When watching SDR, you occasionally notice some blooming, especially during the scenes with the scrolling credits. You won't see it that much unless you're viewing it from a far off angle or really scrutinizing the image closely. But when it comes to HDR, blooming is minimum, almost non-existent. Comparing it to the X95K, the Bravia 9 is a huge improvement in this area. If I had to rate it, I'll give the Bravia 9 a solid B+, while the X95K, I would give it a C+. When it comes to HDR impact, it really depends on the content. For example, watching a Batman, both TVs look almost identical in terms of HDR punch. But when I switched over to Godzilla vs. Kong, the Bravia 9 took the lead. It was brighter, bolder, and more immersive. Spider-Man Far From Home was more scene by scene, with both performing well. Overall, I'll rate the Bravia 9 a B+ for HDR impact, and the X95K, I would give it around a C+ or a B-. When it comes to motion handling on the Bravia 9, it's fantastic. I give it an A for movies, while the X95K will be around the B range. The difference is noticeable, especially when you're watching fast-paced scenes. Now let's talk about the design, and I'm going to be also talking about the remote. Design wise, the X95K and the Bravia 9 are pretty much identical. It's not too much of a difference, except for the backing area where the speakers are laid out. I'll talk about the sound a little bit later on, but if we go ahead and switch to the remote area, this is the part that is a little bit controversial when it comes to remote. I may be the minority on this one, but I really do like this remote just because now it has a USB-C charging port compared to the previous Sony remotes. You had to go ahead and switch the batteries out. I think it's a very nice touch because I know I've been complaining about it year after year, and Sony has finally went in and implement this where you could just charge your remote just like every other manufacturer. Now, before I go ahead and wrap things up, I want to touch on the internal speakers of the Bravia 9. Let me tell you, the soundless TV is one of the best I heard in a while compared to the X95K, the A90J, and A9F. The Bravia 9 definitely stands out. While the X95K sounds like you're in a tin can, the Bravia 9 has more vibrant, fuller sound and noticeable better bass. The A90J and A9F also has some great speakers, but the Bravia 9 managed to bring out even more depth and richness when it comes to audio. With that being said, while the built-in speakers are excellent, I still prefer using home theater speakers for the best experience. But if I had to rate the Bravia 9 internal audio, I would give it an A, while the X95K get a low grade, a D plus, maybe a low C, C minus. Definitely didn't like the internal speakers with the X95K. Again, this is just my take, but for those of you who are relying on internal speakers, the Bravia 9 does deliver a superior experience. Now I'm about to go ahead and go over my final thoughts. Should you buy the Bravia 9? If you're upgrading from the 85-inch X95K, honestly, I say no. The differences are there, but they're not drastic unless you have both TVs side by side for comparison. But if you don't have the X95K or a mini LED from the last couple years, the TV is definitely worth considering, especially if you can snag it for a discount when the price drops. Overall, I'll rate the Sony Bravia 9 a B+. It's a solid TV with great HDR, improved blooming, and a fantastic motion handling. If you're looking for a new mini LED, this is one you should be on your list, but maybe wait for the price to come down a bit. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notification. See you on the next one.